Hello and welcome to episode 150 of The Pitcher or the Hitter, the podcast by the M-SABR Dynasty League for the M-SABR Dynasty League. I am Cam.
I'm Sahil.
And I'm Ruthvik.
That's right. We have it's always fun when we have a triple hosted episode today. This week we've got Ruthvik on, a lot to talk about here. But first and foremost, you, after an 0-7 start, Ruthvik, are going to the hockey finals. Why don't you just kind of talk about that? Just kind of give the rundown of your season and how you're feeling going against Andrew.
Absolutely crazy. And yeah, always great to be on the podcast. Super excited. But yeah, big news. I think hockey was completely unexpected. And you're right, starting off 0-7. And I think just looking at it, the seventh week, I lost 1-9-1 to Greg. It was looking rough. And then and I think I won about 13 of the next 14 or something like that. And then started believing again. But yeah, going down the stretch, I don't think I made the playoffs until the week before, and even then it wasn't fully clinched. So it was a super exciting season. It was a great roller coaster to be a part of.
I don't think
Yeah,
we've had
no,
anybody come close to starting like 0-7 and then making the playoffs here. Like I can't imagine anybody's let alone make it to the finals like of a league. I think there's no way that number is more than like two in any of our other leagues or any other year. It's just insane.
no, it really is. And you got there with, at least this week, a very big blowout upset of Evil. Evil no longer having Sahil on the team and now losing to the sixth seed 2 years in a row. So that's interesting. But you're matching up against Andrew this year. Andrew, for this week. Andrew, of course, two-time finals winner first 2 years of the league. Hard fought win over me in the semis. How are you feeling
Mhm.
against Andrew? What do you think you have to do to beat him?
Yeah, I mean, this week I didn't know who I was rooting for between you and Andrew. I think both of your guys' teams just match up really well against me. But kind of looking at the history, I think Andrew was the one loss that I mentioned during that streak that I had, and I lost to him 4-6-1. And it was definitely a much closer matchup than the numbers even state. So it gives me a little bit of hope. I think Andrew's team is just really good top down. And I think my best chance at beating him kind of has been my MO all season is just trying to win the goalie stats and then getting some at least one, if not both of the physical stats, and then nicking one of the other stats would be probably my best path to success. But of course, Andrew's got a very physical team, making it no joke to try to beat him there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I will say you would have lost 7-3-1 to him this week, although every week is a new matchup, so you never know. But yeah, best of luck to you. Would be a lot of fun to have a second year in a row with a first time winner. But moving on, you two are in a league yourselves, which has a big hockey final coming up against Jake and Jake.
God, I am so annoyed. We could have wrapped up the Gallardo championship this week if Gap would have started Vasilevsky yesterday, or just literally like one less block or something. I think it would be wild because we've seen this happen before. If there's some type of scoring change, because there are four tied categories that unties one of those categories, I think we would wake up and that would be absolute chaos. And you know how much I love chaos. But yeah, I mean, um, this was really how it was always going to end, right? I mean, me and Jake yet again kind of duking it out this time with Ruthvik and other Jakes. So, God, this is going to be exciting, but also stressful. And I wish it was already over. God, this is going to be insane.
Yeah, yeah. I think for the league's sake, this is a fantastic end. Like having it come down to literally the last possible matchup is fantastic moving forward. I think for our hearts, it would have been nice if we would have wrapped it up, but now we gotta turn on that brain for one more week. So yeah, I think this week was huge. The win against Erik. Erik's been the hottest team in the league. He was rattling off, I think it was like 6 or 7 wins in a row, and they weren't even close. Like, he had some really like strong matchups. So end up beating him with a very flattering score. We beat him 10-2. That gives us a lot of confidence going into the finals. But as kind of we were talking about before, I don't feel so great given that we've had a little bit of a rough injury luck, some bad out of form players at the last minute. So, hopefully it's a competitive week. I think if it comes down to like a Sunday matchup again, that would be so exciting.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We'll be watching that very closely um, this coming week. But let's move into baseball. This is the podcast for the Dynasty Baseball League for the Dynasty Baseball League, and there is certainly a lot to talk about this week. But Ruthvik, we have you on as a guest. You made some big trades. Let's talk about those first. Um, you had traded away Ronald
Wait,
Acuna.
before we do that, did you just say the podcast for the Dynasty Baseball League for the Dynasty Baseball League?
I might have. I just want to extra emphasize that it's for the Dynasty League. That's who it's for, and also who it's
Sure.
for.
All right. Well, I just wanted to clarify. Thank you for that. Go ahead.
But yeah, so Ruthvik, you recently made the decision to trade away Ronald Acuna Jr. He has now been traded in this league three times, maybe just twice. No, I think just twice. But either
Twice.
way, you traded away your best player coming off of real life MVP, coming off of fantasy MVP. First and foremost, why did you decide to do it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I think correct me if I'm wrong. If I think I made what like 6 or 7 trades over the last 2 months for this team. I think it was somewhere around that number. Um, but yeah, I mean I pretty much leading up to the season, I kind of had a decision. Do I just roll out the same team, hope for some breakouts, or maybe make some big wholesale changes, try to see if we can make the next step? Because I felt like last year, obviously, super, super successful season given where I was before, coming in the top four, taking that semifinals matchup until the final weekend. I think honestly until the last day. I was super excited, but still going up, but putting my team against the powerhouses of the league, like definitely did not see a good matchup. So I decided, all right, it's probably time to do what you guys have been saying on the podcast for like a year. It's time to revamp that offense. And I've been shopping Acuna for 2 straight off seasons now, been shopping him at the deadline. Never really came close to what I like never really came close to what I thought I would need. And then there was that one day where I think I told the league there were like 7 real offers for Acuna. And I think that was the first time I looked at it and I thought, okay, I'm getting 4 real pieces from most teams. That's a great enough retool. And I'm not talking like 4 prospects. I'm talking like 2 to 3 current major league, like top 100, top 80 guys, and then a top 20, top 30 prospects. So once I saw that was what the value was, I thought, okay, let me kind of see what's the best of the best, and eventually ended up making that deal.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, there was a lot of yeah, a lot of teams in on that and a lot of offers made over that amount of time.
Yeah. So talk about the return. I mean, obviously, you had a couple of packages that you were looking at. I
Yeah.
know, like you said, 7 teams kind of made competitive offers. I know that kind of got winnowed down towards the end there, and it looked like it was kind of Jake, EBO, and Eric were kind of in a running there.
Mhm.
What kind of compelled you to take Jake's offer? And was there kind of anything else in those negotiations, with those teams that really motivated you to, kind of move towards Jake's offer or just kind of explain that whole process?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So I think you're right. It was down to those 3 teams. I think Eric had a really, really compelling offer. His main 2 pieces were Jose Ramirez and Cole Reagans, and then the last 2 was where I was kind of a little bit harder. I don't remember. It's one of the hunters. It's one of the hunters. I don't remember which one that Eric has, starting pitcher, and then
Green.
oh yeah, Green, and then Luis Angel Acuna. So it was a really good offer for me. I think I was just trying to see what's the most I could extract out of Acuna without thinning it out too much. And I went with Jake's initially because I got four pieces that I really, really liked, of course. And of those, I felt like one wasn't even a huge drop off to Acuna. So Kyle Tucker was absolutely the main part of that deal. I felt like if I had just stayed at that part of the deal, I would have still been really, really happy because I was going to get a guy who probably would go head to head with Acuna on everything except stolen bases. And then, of course, I got Bichette on top of that. I got Luzardo and Adael Amador. So I was very happy there. I needed middle infield help. Bichette would have helped, even though I kind of think he's probably reached a ceiling. He's still young enough to where he could have a breakout year. And then Luzardo, we all saw what he did last year. His peripherals looked great. I always believed in him. Um, taking an extra step these next few years. And then I got Seth Lugo, just kind of a throw-in piece, but he was also kind of an interesting guy. Like he's the kind of guy I know, Sahil, you always love carrying guys like him as like the low end, like the back of your rotation. So it was a super interesting deal right there. I did have to give up, Ryan McMahon and Cutter Crawford. I really liked Cutter Crawford going into the year, so that kind of sucked, but I kind of figured he was almost a straight swap for Lugo, so fairly irrelevant in the big picture. Um, but yeah, my idea was to just stop there. But then I think talking a little bit more with Zane, I really, really liked his top end pieces. So I was kind of thinking maybe I could get both of their offers, but maybe one less piece from Zane. And that at that point, I think the only piece that was different between the Tucker offer and their Acuna offer was Yuri Perez. So once we came to the agreement that, okay, let's just drop Perez from the deal and whatever I can add to to Tucker, I'll add in order to get kind of the rest of the package. I realized like, okay, I'm not going to get, instead of just four pieces for Acuna, think of it like seven that I really liked.
Yeah, no, that's definitely interesting. Um, yeah, it seems like yeah, especially when it was looking like Michael Harris was going to be in the offer. Yeah, that the return for him was kind of looking pretty similar to what you ended up getting for Tucker. Um, but yeah, either way, you definitely got a lot of value for Acuna here.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I think I'm very happy with that. I also really, I think I might be on the prospect, what's the word I'm looking for? I might be buying into the hype a lot, but I really like Jackson Churio coming in. I think he is one of those guys that who knows, he could be the next Acuna. So I kind of figure if I'm going to take a shot at one of the prospects up there, he's going to be the guy to try to aim for. So getting him in the deal made it a lot easier to take the overall package.
Oh, I mean, even if he's just the next Tucker, right? Then you're saying you got a younger version of Tucker,
Hmm.
and then you got two extra pieces in that deal. I mean, I know Matt McLean's hurt, but he's still really solid, and Joe Ryan is a great starting pitcher. Like, yeah, I think, like you said, you definitely listened to us. We said revamp that offense, and I'm sure Cam or I, probably me, have floated the concept of trading Acuna for a haul in one of last year's podcasts. And man, I mean, you went out and did it. This team looks a lot deeper than it did a month ago. So I mean, kudos to you for that. Not just with the Acuna move or the Tucker move, but a lot of some of the other ancillary moves that you made. One of these ancillary moves, I think you two should both weigh in on. I thought this was one of the more interesting trades um, that we've seen recently. Um, I'm going to pull up the exact details here, but actually, before we do that, was there anything else that you would like to talk about with relation to either of your trades, the Acuna or Tucker deal?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think the team looks a lot deeper, and I think for the first time, my farm actually has names that people value. So it was nice to rebuild the team. I think if I was to get any value out of Acuna, it would have been that. I also got really worried about the knee injury, So even though McLean did get hurt, probably gonna miss the season, if that happened to Acuna versus one out of six guys, it would have been a lot harder to take that, obviously. So the best value for a player is always going to be right after he comes off of like an MVP season, something like that. So getting this kind of an offer was the only way I was going to move him. And I'm pretty happy. Obviously, we can revisit this next offseason, see, if I made the right choice or not. Who knows? Acuna could come off another MVP season. But I think given my team build, it made sense for both teams. Obviously, Jake now got the best starting pitcher and the best bat in the league in one offseason right after winning the title. So that's like a huge haul for him. But I'd say I'm definitely very happy with the overall haul.
No, I think that's very fair. All right. Well, if there is nothing else on those trades, then you two made a very interesting trade. Cam traded Victor Scott the second and a conditional second to Ruthvik for Louis Varland, with the condition being if Varland has 15 or more quality starts in 2024, Cam will send my 2025 second round pick to Ruthvik. Cam, Ruthvik just talked for a while. Why don't you start with your thoughts on the trade? I know you sent me a couple DMs before the deal, um, um, maybe expressing a little bit of unease. So why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, no, I kind of got cold feet pretty much instantly. This was before I announced it, but after I had kind of accepted it, so I wasn't going to renege or anything like that. But I started to get some cold feet when I realized that Victor Scott was kind of being hyped up in the fantasy community. I knew him, I picked him up last year, and I know I liked him, but I kind of thought he was more under the radar than he was. Um, so I was kind of realizing that maybe I could have gotten some more from for him in return. But either way, I am kind of happy. I am happy with the deal in principle. I think Louis Varland is a guy that I do want to bet on, kind of as my eighth or ninth starter, especially now with all the guys I have hurt and with Montgomery ramping up. I think he's a guy I want to bet on. It turns out I streamed him once last year, also, but I don't know. He um, gets a lot of ground balls. He really doesn't walk very many guys. Doesn't give up a ton of hard contact. I think I really like that Twins rotation, and I'm kind of buying him as like a fourth or fifth starter with some upside there. Victor Scott, the second, I like him. I don't like the profile as much. I was kind of worried he just might be the next Esteury Ruiz, which is valuable in a way, but very one-dimensional. And not necessarily. And even if he does turn into Esteury Ruiz, I'm not like, going to be missing that necessarily. It's just not kind of the way I build my team, and kind of not the type of guys I want to be banking on. But in the end, I think maybe I didn't get the best value necessarily, but I like the piece I got.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. I think they're both very interesting young players, and I know you needed a pitcher. Um, but yeah, so Rustic, what was kind of your uh kind of thinking behind this? I know that you've been really hyping up Louis Varland quite a bit. Um, and I know he's been one of your guys. So I know you did need an outfielder and you needed some depth there, but I have to admit it was a little surprising to see you trade Varland after all the good stuff you've been saying about him.
Yeah, yeah. No, I like Cam said, I really, really like Varland's profile. I he's the perfect kind of back end rotation arm with like good upside to even be like your fourth or fifth best starting pitcher. It was tough. I think when Cam and I talked, I kind of mentioned like, I would love to swap a starting pitcher for Victor Scott specifically. And I've been trying to do that with so many outfielders over the last couple of weeks because I was rolling into the season with Tyler O'Neill as my fourth outfielder and then Mark Canha as my fifth. And I mean, I know they both had pretty good starts to the year, but I just didn't feel great relying on both of them. And of course, Victor Scott's a rookie. He's been getting a lot of love from the fantasy community, and I don't think he has a hit yet, if I remember right. Um, but I kind of like his profile fits my team. I think even with Acuna gone, I still am a pretty speed reliant team. I even if he gets 20, 30 stolen bases this year, that's like exactly what I needed. So I think of the guys I was willing to trade in terms of starting pitcher wise, Musgrove was number one, but obviously he's at a different tier, and I was I wasn't too excited about the offers I had for him. And then Louis Varland, sometimes you got to give to get. And I think given my depth in starting pitching, and I also had potentially Joe Boyle and Keaton Winn coming up to be that back end rotation arm, I was more comfortable trading away Varland. Um, Definitely have a lot of starting pitchers right now where I'm okay giving up some um, back end rotation arms to get that offensive upside.
Man, I got so much shit down the stretch for rostering Keaton Winn in hopes that he'd have a late September breakout. Now you're treating him like he's one of your top guys.
Yeah, I like the profile. I mean I was surprised to see him available. I think for a rookie, he showed like really good control and I think if I remember right, he had a decent I know he had a late start to spring training, but I think he was looking okay coming back. So I have nothing to lose rostering him for like a couple of starts. And if the Giants are like the pitching factory that they are, then he's going to be one of their good ones.
They did lose Andrew Bailey. I'm curious to see how that's going to affect them. Clearly, it seems like the Red Sox are clearly benefiting from him already.
Oh
Um,
yeah, oh yeah, love Bailey. I I bought into that Red Sox rotation early, and maybe I should have kept Cutter Crawford, but yeah, that Red Sox rotation looks really nice to start the year.
I'd say it's a good thing you didn't buy into the people who are trying to trade for Pivetta uh,
Mhm.
right after you made all those the Acuna and Tucker deals. But God, yeah, this is it's a nice group of pitchers you put together. Definitely gives you that depth. I know Cam, I think was it last episode you kind of talked about your like three top outfielders, you're like Judge, Soto, and then Nimmo, and I think somebody posted that meme and the Slack channel. So definitely had that outfield depth there. Um, I think that's all on the trade front. There was a trade that happened in between. Uh, well, there was two trades, and we managed to squeeze both of those in on the last episode, thanks to the Dylan Cease trade coming in right as we were finishing recording. So I think that's all on the trade front. Is there anything else you all would like to discuss before we turn the page from off-season moves into what happened in week one?
No, that I want to say that we kind of described that uh Varland Scott deal as this year's Tanner Bibby for Spencer Steer deal, and I'm
Oh,
hoping
I
it
like that.
works out well for both of us like that one did.
Yeah, definitely. That was one of my favorite deals last year, even though I did lose a pretty solid bat. I was definitely happy to get Bibby and then turn him into Albie. So um, I guess if history follows, then Cam's going to trade Louis Varland in the middle of the season for a top second baseman. So we'll see if that actually comes to fruition. But um, yeah, without further ado, then I think it's time we turn to week one.
Yeah, let's turn to week
Let's do
one.
it.
Yeah, let's go through the matchups. I think we should probably, Sahil, start with yours. We both, and I guess with a disclosure, this is a stub week. That's kind of what we've been calling it. It's a very weird week, and not to take away from the teams that won this week, because a lot of them looked good, but also I'm not worrying at all about the teams that lost this week. Maybe this is just my method of coping with losing 11 to 1, but it's a stub week. It's weird, weird things happen.
Look, I will say this, right? Ruthvik lost seven straight matchups to start the hockey league, and he's now playing in the finals. Jake lost week one last year, and he's playing in the finals, or he won the league last year. Sorry. So week one doesn't mean shit in the larger scheme of things. It's about how you rebound from it if you do lose. I will also say, you and I don't know if I said it on air or one of us said it on air or if we talked about it afterwards. I know I definitely sent you a DM about it, but I was like, there's going to be some weird shenanigans this week just because of how short the week is. And when you're only playing four real days of games, and not only that, a lot of these teams only played three games. I know the Dodgers and the Padres each played six, but I mean, a lot can happen in three games that can just random small sample size. So, um, and it did. I mean, I would not have predicted how these results turned out, but sometimes that's what happens. I guess in my matchup specifically, I mean, this one was just weird. I mean, offensively, I dominated. Like, I think I was first in the league this week in runs and home runs and RBIs and OB second in OBP. Like, just absolutely dominated. But so I won 5 to 6 categories there. I lost doubles by one. The pitching side was an absolute different story. I got a quality start for Marcus Stroman, but pretty much everybody else let me down. Specifically, Aaron Nola and Max Fried giving up like 10 runs in like 3 innings, not even pitching against each other, really sank me. Couple of times where I thought I was about to get a save or a hold and something didn't happen for one reason or another. I benched a double on Sunday that would have given me a tie. Just like nothing seemed to go right this week on the pitching side, or just kind of some of the luck that I needed. And as it stands, I lost 5-6-1. Obviously, the hitting's humming well. Everybody's healthy, not really concerned there. And I know it's one start on the pitching side, but like my guys need to get it together fast. Uh, we all know about my pitching injuries, and if the healthy guys are going to pitch like this, I'm in for a long season. Not that I think they will. From Anthony's perspective, I mean, solid week offensively, given a short week. Although he just kind of hit, just kind of a dominant offensive force in me. Pitching wise, the numbers look worse because Bailey Ober got blown up, but the rest of his pitching staff did very well. He got 3 quality starts out of 8 pitchers. Didn't really do much bullpen wise, but he was able to get a hold, and that was critical on Sunday to hand him a win. And I think if you're Anthony, you have to feel pretty good about the starts of the season. So I'm disappointed. I know that one week is not going to determine my season, but this was one of those where, I wish I could have back, because you never know how things are going to look at the end of the season when you really just need that one game. But it's not the end.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Anthony will be starting at 1-0. Not the best offensive week for him. You definitely dominated on offense. I mean, Mookie Betts, 4 homers. Um, yeah, I mean, you having all of these Dodgers having the extra games would have thought that would have been huge for you, but your pitching just couldn't get it together, and Anthony's pitching got it together slightly better than yours did. I think I'll give matchup MVP to Freddie Peralta, who got the quality start. 6 innings, 8 Ks, just 1 earned run and just 1 walk. I think he kind of had the best performance on Anthony's team. There wasn't really any standout bat besides maybe O'Neal Cruz, or Willie Adames had a solid week too.
Yeah, I'd like to say one more thing too. I am super annoyed at the umpire. Max Fried threw strike 3 on Castellanos, and it was called a ball, and it might be the worst called ball that I've ever seen. We need that, like whatever the minors has, where you can like challenge a pitch, because that would have been the easiest overturn. Fried gave up like 3 runs after that, and that was enough to like flip that, combined with the walks and hits he gave afterwards. Like, I think that might have been enough to flip the RA and whip, and at least keep him in the game longer to help do some of that. So, really annoyed with the umps.
Yeah,
They're in mid-season form.
I would also say I think also helped. He got 8 hits from guys I traded him this offseason. So pretty pretty happy about that, that at least those guys are playing well for him.
That is true, man. Uh, who did you trade him this offseason? Davis Schneider had a hit.
David Schneider had a home run, and then Starling Marte also had a home run, and he started off the year pretty well. And then Mountcastle's been pretty good as well.
Yeah, and Mountcastle and Marte both had doubles that if he didn't have them on their roster, then would have been a different story. So thank you for letting Anthony beat me. It's all your fault now.
Anytime.
Oh, right.
All right, I'm done talking about my matchup, Cam. Let's move on.
All right, let's move on to mine because it was just kind of a shocking result. Andrew had a pretty solid week, and I had a really terrible week. And I can't use the excuse that I was in hockey mode and not thinking about baseball because that also applies to Andrew, who also beat me in hockey. Um, yeah, I mean, it is a short week, but only hitting 5 homers, only 5 doubles. No steals, 24 runs is not what I want to see from my team. Really, everyone outside of uh, Juan Soto was pretty terrible. Judge had a bad week. Lindor, Bryant, Contreras, Nimmo, uh, Xander Bogaerts, and Vlad Jr. had good weeks, as did Jared Kelenic, who, hey, he is 5 for 7 to start the year. Look at that man go. Um, Pitching wise, not a lot to be happy about, except for Yu Darvish was good and Zach Wheeler was good, but kind of a rough first start on my team for Kikuchi and for Mitch Keller as well. Overall, good week for Andrew, though. I'm gonna give matchup MVP to Brian Reynolds, who drove in 5 runs, hit a couple doubles, hit a homer also. With a shout out to Bobby Witt Jr., who did very well, but just in fewer plate appearances. Um, Will Smith had a really good week too. His pitching was fine, nothing spectacular, but he got a really good start from Pablo Lopez and Grayson Rodriguez.
Yeah, no, I think you summed it up nicely there. So who is matchup MVP?
I gave it to Brian Reynolds.
Oh, did I just totally miss?
I think you totally
Oops.
did.
All right. Well, Brian Reynolds is matchup MVP in case somebody else totally spaced out as Cam was talking. Then yeah, you got to hear it twice. Uh, Ruthvik, would you like to add any thoughts on this matchup?
No, I agree. I think Brian Reynolds, Will Smith, both just had really, really good weeks. But of course, Will Smith played a few more games, like you'd mentioned. But yeah, that's a very, very surprising score. But Andrew's always had a really, really good team, and I think he's become a lot more balanced with a lot of his pitching guys coming into their own. So he's going to be, in my opinion, I think he's a top four team in the league. So it'll be really exciting to see what his team can do.
I'm
Interesting.
with you there. Yeah, I think his team has gotten a lot better, and I think he is ready to kind of take that next leap uh, into. Oh, I guess he took a big leap last year, making it to the semis, but um,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be sleeping on him this year. Uh,
Yeah. The
yeah,
steel injury does hurt him though.
yeah, oh yeah, it definitely does. But he does have some other pretty impressive pitchers that had really good weeks. I'm thinking about Grayson Rodriguez. I think Pablo Lopez had a good game. So
Mhm.
um, yeah, good to be Andrew right now. But we ready to move on to the next matchup? I think we should move on to Ruthvik's matchup here. Speaking of big wins,
Yeah, yeah. It was a really, really it was a tale of two halves. I think with the Padres and Dodgers series, I only had I think Musgrove going and he had an absolutely terrible start. So I knew it was gonna be a weird week. Wasn't gonna give too much thought into the results, but definitely very happy with a lot of my new acquisitions. I think I think Jackson Churio had a very, very decent start. No power yet, but he drove in a lot of runs. He drove in 2 runs. He had a stolen base, so it's a good warm up for him, especially against my Mets. I think Christian Walker had a couple home runs. I think Jeremy Pena was getting a good amount of hits. Of course, I love Tyler O'Neill. I think he's one of the most polarizing guys, but if he stays healthy, he's always a threat for a 30, maybe a 30-20 season. So kind of loved his start to the year. Overall, I think my pitching was a welcome surprise. Even though Eric and I kind of what did we basically split the pitching categories. I think getting 5 quality starts in this short week was definitely a surprise for me. A lot of the starting pitchers were welcome surprise. I think Pavetta was fantastic, like we had just talked about. I think Webb was classic Webb again. So I'm pretty happy with the start. And tough loss for Erik. I think his offense was really good. I think mine just had like a slightly better week, and his pitching has like been crazy good as usual. So really, really happy about the way that started.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
absolutely great. Yeah, great start for your team. There was the bit of drama around whether Nick Martinez or Trevor Rogers' start wouldn't count. It turns out since Martinez threw his first pitch 4 seconds before Rogers did, then Rogers is the one that doesn't count. Ultimately, that didn't affect your matchup either way. But you got
Mhm.
some great starts. I think I'm going to give matchup MVP to Pavetta for his 10Ks though.
Yeah, I agree. I was gonna say definitely Pavetta for the pitching side, and then I was also kind of looking at a little bit of Brian Hayes. He had a really, really great start, but I think Pavetta's start was just it was electric.
yeah. I wonder if this is finally going to be the breakout season for Brian Hayes that everybody was looking for. I know he was pretty solid last season, but I think there's still a lot of people who are expecting him to kind of hit for a little more power. And I think if he can get that launch angle up a bit more, I know Pittsburgh's not a great place to hit, but he might be part of kind of this offensive retool for you. I mean, I know you had him in previous seasons, but curious to see if he can take that next step. Help you not even really miss Acuna. So
That would be great. Yeah, I think uh, he's one of those guys like you said, I was super excited about. He had a great second half of last year, and I hope he keeps it up for the whole year.
Hmm.
absolutely. Um, Anything else we'd like to say about this matchup, or are we ready to move on?
Um, I think it's time to move on. Any other matchups that are kind of standing out?
I think that the next closest one was Yuki over Alex and Zach. Um, Yuki was really aided by the Diamondbacks playing the Rockies. Um, the Rockies are still not good, newsflash. Um, and Yuki has Corbin Carroll and Lourdes Gurriel Jr. And Gabriel Moreno. Carroll and Gurriel had good series. Um, Moreno not so much, but and Yuki also got. I mean, we kind of poke fun at his rotation, but Kyle Harrison, Tyler Wells, and Zach Littell all got quality starts for him. Um, he was able to rack up a couple saves and holds. While he was bested in ERA and WHIP, Alex had a really good week there. Yuki was just able to do enough with those bullpen categories to kind of, be able to win there. Alex didn't have the best offensive week, although 6 steals is nice and honestly very on brand for him. Um, had a solid pitching week ERA and WHIP wise, but wasn't able to get quite the volume in the reliever categories or in strikeouts to take over. He is running a pretty thin pitching staff with a pretty large bench of hitters, including it looks like a couple of empty bench spots here. So I wonder if that's something he can fix. But he's literally not rostering a bench pitcher. So wonder if maybe changing our roster construction a bit could have help him here in future weeks. But yeah, ultimately Yuki was able to kind of pull it out here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He didn't have the best pitching week like Alex did. Alex really got a great start from Gilbert, great start from Bobby Miller, who looked really good. Great start from Brady Singer as well. If you're buying a Brady Singer rebound, although his hitters weren't the best. Not a great week from Julio. Not at all a good week from Brendan Rodgers, Jordan Walker either. Yuki, though, I mean, the clear matchup MVP is Lourdes Gurriel Jr. He was kind of the only
Mhm.
guy on this team who hit really. Randy had a good week too. Um, and the pitching was
Carroll
solid,
had a good
but yeah, Carroll had a good week. That's true too. 6 walks for Carroll. Wow.
Yeah, he walked, but he didn't really do much else. I think Gurriel just really, really good.
Hmm. But yeah, any other thoughts on this matchup? This was one that was um, that we were picking for the preseason prediction contest. This was the first matchup that had to be picked for that. It looks like Zane, Jake, Daniel, and Anthony all picked this one correctly, whereas um, four teams picked this one to tie. Four owners picked this one to tie, including myself and Sahil. Um, and then Ruthvik and Erik incorrectly picked Alex to win this one.
It low-key came close to tying. Like, I mean, strikeouts, there's only two apart. If that one flips and then Alex gets one more quality start or another save or a hold, and all of a sudden it's tied. Um,
Hmm.
I don't feel bad about that pick, even though it didn't quite work out.
But yeah, let's move on. Two matchups left, both kind of blowouts. Let's talk about EBO though, the uh, newest iteration of EBO, and they looked really good against Conor, at least on the pitching side.
Yeah, this is a pitching staff that's really been retooled. Um, even despite the injuries. And this actually came today too with them benching all their pitchers. They benched a Jason Foley save. They benched a scoreless inning by Yuki, which makes it all the more impressive. That's going to be funny all season. The whole Yuki thing, but in particular, I like that Yamamoto bounced back. He pitched five shutout innings against the Cardinals. It could have been more, but there was a rain delay in there. I was surprised that he came back after the rain delay, honestly, but and maybe he would have gone deeper without it. But um, this they got Shane Bieber and Tariq Skubal really showed out. Bieber especially, I know it was against Oakland, but that velocity increase he kind of showed in the offseason has me a little more hyped about him than I have in previous years. I wonder if they kind of have an under the radar gem on their hands. And uh yeah, I mean hitting side two was pretty solid across the board. Maybe not super flashy, but I'll certainly take 9 home runs in a short week if I'm them. They're one of these teams, right? We talked about them in the power rankings as the seventh best team in the league. Um, and it's hard to have all six teams repeat as champions. I wonder if this is just kind of the beginning of a playoff campaign for them. So
It really might be, and it is just Conor, whose team we ranked 11th in the power rankings, and he had a 301 on base percentage. Although Jake Berger had a great week for him. Um, but outside of Luis Robert, no one else really did. EBO, that, yeah, could be good. Shane Bieber is going to be matchup MVP of this one, just with the 11 strikeouts, the quality start, no runs allowed. But I will give a shout out to Jake Cronenworth as well. Yeah, big Michigan week with the hockey team going to the Frozen Four, and with Jake Cronenworth driving 5 runs.
yeah, the early returns for both teams from that trade have been pretty solid. Dylan Cease had a nice start for the Padres, so um, I'll be really curious to see how that trade ages for both Connor and I.
Um, but yeah, anything else we want to talk about with this one before we get into the final matchup?
I got nothing.
Yeah, nothing.
All right. With this last one, then, um, Jake, coming off his second title defense, had a 10 to 1 victory. Very good hitting week for him, although not the best ERA, but a really solid all around week for Jake, scoring 40 runs. Looking down the list, Josh Bell had a solid week. Couple of homers for George Springer, couple of homers for Manny Machado, who I think will get matchup MVP just for the run in RBI totals here. Um, Although with a shout out to
Mhm.
Michael Harris, new acquisition, who also scored 5 runs. Not the best pitching week for him. Jose Alvarado got blown up out of the pen, and Luis Castillo didn't make a good first start. Outside of that, I would have been very shocked if he lost this matchup.
Yeah, this was the easiest matchup to predict of the week. I mean, there's yeah, I mean, this was a team we had number one in the power rankings versus a team we had number 12 in the power rankings. Um, yeah, I mean, I think the offense showed out really well. I think Jake's pitching is going to have to be a little better. Um, but I think there is a lot to be confident about here, and he looks primed to repeat his title campaign. So.
Hmm. Yeah, that pretty much sums it up, though. I liked seeing Daniel and Matt using 6 of their 7 ads, though. Tim Mesa appearance out of it. Uh, Looks like, do they add New Uribe or no? It looks like they already owned him. But
Yeah,
I guess they
they've
got
had
a
him
they
for a
got a
while.
Graham Pauley home run that they streamed, so good for them there.
He's been in their farm system, so
Uh,
good for him to kind of promote him. I'm kind of curious how Paulie's been used so far. I thought the Padres would be using him more, but seems like he's been sitting on the bench a bunch in favor of Tyler Wade, which is not something I would have guessed. But
Not
if
to
the
be confused
Padres
with
can
Taylor
keep
Ward.
Paulie,
I was
yeah,
gonna say, yeah.
who also had a good week for you, by the way.
Hmm?
But yeah, I think yeah, I'm hoping the Padres kind of wisen up and give him some more playing time. Although with Machado probably moving back to third sooner rather than later, wonder if that might make it a little harder for Paulie to get some PT.
Some PT.
Yeah, I like their team. I think they made some good moves. I like a good amount of their bats. I think 6 or 7 of their bats are really solid young guys to bank on. They have a couple of solid starting pitchers, and their bullpen's pretty decent as well. I think they just unfortunately don't have the depth, and going up against Jake week 1 is never an easy task.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But they could, um, I could see them having an improved season from next year as long as they find a couple pitchers.
I think so too. Yeah, if they're active and kind of seeking out pitching in the waiver wire, I think there's no reason maybe to trade a batter too. But yeah. Anything else we would like to talk about this matchup or any other matchup before we get into the pick'em?
I think I'm ready for the pick 'em.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, actually, I lied. Before we do the pick'em, we do have to do our matchup to watch for next week. We have not done one of these episodes in a hot sec, so I'm forgetting the order in which we do things. So, um, yeah, Cam, what did we pick as our matchup to watch?
Um, we are out of sorts. We're all in hockey brain. Uh, Early season, stub week. We got Drew stubbed this week. I think matchup to watch has probably got to be Jake versus Andrew, right? Both starting at 1-0.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This could be a
Yeah, you
very
were
yeah,
speaking of
yeah,
the
Andrew's already got to win against me, and this could be a very big test for him.
absolutely.
yeah. If he can start the season 2-0 with statement wins over you and Jake, I mean, all of a sudden, I mean. Where I mean, I think he's already really a big team to watch after the season he had last year, but I mean that will really I think uh kind of put some targets on his back here. I mean, just looking at his schedule the first 6 weeks, I mean, absolutely brutal. He plays EVO after Jake, then Anthony, and then me, and then Erik. So if he can start 2-0 against Cam and Jake, that takes a lot of pressure off of kind of some of those other matchups early on here, and will really help him as he tries to, you know, get back to the playoffs here. I think as for Jake, right, this is a big first test um, for him of the season. He had a nice, easy warm up matchup here, but he also kind of has a tough schedule coming up. He plays Andrew, Cam, Ruthvik, then Daniel Matt again, but then he gets me right after that, and then EBO. So, I mean, that's 5 of the top 7 teams from our power rankings. So, let's see if we can kind of keep some of that momentum going. Um, as he starts to play some tougher competition again.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I guess a shout out matchup to watch. You were playing Alex. Alex is 1-0. You are 0-1. Alex is the team that you always think is going to be sneaky good every year, and he could knock you to 0-2. So just something that I'm going to be watching myself.
I don't think I've ever been 2 games under 500 in this league. I remember the year that I lost the first game, or the first time I did. I think I've now lost the first matchup twice. I remember it being the first time I was ever under 500. I can't imagine being 2 games under 500 in this league. That feels just weird. Like I don't know. I hope that's not the case, but I'm a little nervous.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But yes, let's pick these matchups. Ruthvik, as the guest, do you want to pick first?
Absolutely. So just going down the list, right?
Yeah.
Yes, we are go. All right, but before we do that, because again, Cam and I are all out of sorts here, we should probably go over how we picked the last week's matchups. Um, all right, so as I do this quickly, because I am all out of sorts here, and remembering to do this. All right, well, so Cam and I, not our best start, but we'll get there. We both picked me to win. That did not turn out correct. We both picked Erik to beat Ruthvik. Ruthvik proved both of us wrong. Nice job, Ruthvik. I picked Alex to win. Cam picked Yuki to win. Yuki won. Interesting that you picked this as a tie in the or we both picked this as ties in the preseason prediction contest, and that came wrong. Well, we picked differently here, and then you actually ended up being right the second time around. Um, we both or we both picked EBO to beat Conor. We both picked Jake to beat Daniel and Matt. So no surprises there. You picked yourself to win. I picked you and Andrew to tie. Andrew won. So I am 2-3-1. You are 3-3. Usually that means Cam will pick first. We're remembering all the rules again. But because we have a guest picker this week, Ruthvik, you take it away with your picks.
All right. So the matchup between me and Connor, I'm gonna pick back myself there. For Anthony versus Matt and Dan, I'm gonna pick Anthony. For Alex versus Sahil, as much as I'd love a good upset, I'm gonna have to go with Sahil there. I think his team bounces back. Erik versus Yuki. I'm always rooting against Yuki, so I'm gonna go with Erik. And then we have Andrew versus Jake, that's a tough one. I know it's a matchup of the week. I'm backing Andrew.
Mhm.
I think he's got the team. I think he definitely has the early season um good start, like a good boost. So I'm gonna go with Andrew, and then EBO versus Cam. Man, this one's tough. I really like the moves EBO made. I'm gonna go with them. That's like I feel it's a much more risky pick than the Andrew one. So I'm gonna go against the grain and go with EBO there. Sorry, Cam.
Interesting, interesting, interesting. And I guess because I am winning, I will pick second. I think Ruthvik, as much as I'd like to pick against you for disrespecting my team, I will. I do not think you'll lose to Conor. Um, I think Anthony starts out 2-0 with a win over the Drury. I think Sahil will beat Alex, but maybe a little bit closer than we're expecting. I think Andrew will beat Yuki. I think Jake will beat Andrew.
Or
And
you,
which
you said
leaves,
Erik beat Yuki. You mean you said Andrew beat Yuki?
oh, I could have sworn I said Erik.
No, you didn't.
All right, well, Erik will beat Yuki. I think Jake will beat Andrew, and that leaves me versus EBO. And I don't love the way my team played, and I do like the way EBO played. Let's bring back the tie of the week
Oh,
All
for this one.
right. I like that. Okay. I will go now. I'll pick myself to beat Alex and Zach. I think I'll rebound. Um, I think Ruthvik's going to beat Conor. I don't think that'll be really much controversy there. I think Anthony will beat Daniel and Matt. And then here's where I think it starts to get interesting. I'll pick Erik to beat Yuki. I guess that part's not interesting. It's really the last two matchups. I'm gonna pick Jake and Andrew to be the tie of the week. I picked one last week. I'm not usually a big tie person, but I did pick Andrew to tie last week. Let's pick him to tie this week. And I'm also gonna go EBO over Cam. I'm getting better vibes from EBO's team right now. Zane seems really engaged in the team. Cam's team didn't quite perform up to standards this week, and I know on the pitching side, Cam is dealing with quite a few injuries. Some of them are more short term. I think, you're going to get Sonny Gray back relatively soon. Walker Buehler had a rehab start today. I don't think Eduardo Rodriguez will be out too long. And I know Jordan Montgomery will be back on the roster sooner rather than later. But I think with some of those issues there, I think EBO might be able to sneak an early season win against you that they probably wouldn't get like 2 or 3 weeks from now. So I'm going to say EBO. That was a good call out by Ruthvik, and I'm going to copy him.
So none of the three of us picked me to beat EBO.
No, and I think that's pretty funny. I thought for sure you were going to pick yourself, but you seem to have no confidence. I can't picture you dropping to 0-2, but I really want it to happen, so I'm going to pick it anyway.
Man, yeah, it was a tough week, and it's the stub week. That's what we've been saying all week. Nothing matters in stub week, but EBO looked good.
Well, so I will say too, one thing I'm really bummed about is that it was announced this week that it looks like the Dodgers and the Cubs are going to open next season in Tokyo, which I don't think it's kind of crazy that the Dodgers are opening the season out in Asia twice in a row. Like, pick another team. But what it probably also means is, assuming opening day is going to be on a Thursday, like it's been the last few years, we're going to get another stub week to start next season. And I'm really not looking forward to that. I think it's the wrong way to go about it.
Yeah, no, and maybe the schedule will be different, that it doesn't end up having to be a stub week. Maybe it gets to be an extra long week, but yeah, I can't say there were a ton of people happy with the schedule this week.
I mean, the teams who won, yeah, but I think even if you would have polled everybody before the season, I mean, I think there's definitely some discussion of like, hey, is there a way to change this? And ESPN does not let us change it, so we'd have to move to one of those super fancy platforms that I don't think we're quite ready to do.
That is true. I do not think we are ready for that. ESPN's kind of it's year 7 with ESPN, and I think we're kind of sticking with it.
Yeah, that actually reminds me. There's one more thing I want to talk about before we get off air here, and I think Ruthvik, I'd love for you to weigh in too. There's a pretty big transaction that happened this week that was not a trade, and that is Erik finally cut Wander Franco. Kind of spurred by the Royce Lewis injury, which, as an aside, the Royce Lewis experience, kind of in a nutshell. Erik got on the first day, I think he had a home run in his first at bat. He was on base in his second at bat, and he pulled him. I think it was his quad. And it looks like he's going to miss a pretty significant amount of time. So Erik, needing to fill the corner infield spot, picked up JD Davis, dropped Wander. Wander had moved to administrative leave. So per ESPN, that's technically not a suspension. So Erik could not roster him on his IL as like an out eligible player. So yeah, he, rather than playing short, has decided to move on from Wander. I don't really want to touch into the specific aspects of Wander's allegations as much as talking about the baseball aspects here, because that's what we are. We are a dynasty baseball league. Any thoughts on the decision that Erik made?
I think it was a no-brainer for him. I don't think anyone else in the league is really going to come close to touching him. I think it was a smart move to save a roster spot. I don't see him playing in the league anytime soon, but hey, stranger things have happened. But I think Erik, for a competing guy, like he doesn't have the space to hold on to him. So it's definitely a great decision.
Cam, what say you?
Yeah, that's pretty much what I thought. And it seems my take on it was because he was put on administrative leave, that kind of makes it seem like he's not ever going to be put on the suspended list. Um, so Erik won't have the opportunity to put him there, and he kind of saw the writing on the wall.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't think the administrative leave necessarily means that he won't be suspended eventually, because I think what's happening is you're trying to figure out, how is this going to play out through the courts. Um, and I think once, all the facts are gathered and all of that, then they can rule on an official suspension. I know that's happened before in various different cases. I believe Trevor Bauer was put on administrative leave before they announced his suspension, but I mean, I think Ruthvik's right. Like, I don't see a scenario where Wander's playing in the league anytime soon. Um, Honestly, probably not ever again. I have a hard time believing anybody's going to want to have to is going to want to deal with that baggage. So um, yeah, I think it was the right decision. I highly, highly doubt anybody's going to pick him up. I think in theory, if you are a rebuilding team and you really are like, well, I could use a roster spot on him, or like, I don't know, some random 35-year-old, like maybe, but it's not even something I'd really feel good about doing and see really what the benefit is. So I think he's going to sit on the waiver wire. Um,
That's fair.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Honestly, the only reason I haven't done that with Julio Urias is that he is IL eligible. So he would otherwise probably be the same situation for me.
Yeah. Pretty much. But let's not end on that downer note. I guess one more piece of news. We voted on a rule change during this week, and we kind of brushed over that. But we as a group decided that following this off season, guys were kind of ramping up and starting the season in the minors, um, such as Jordan Montgomery. After this, will not be allowed to put on the NPI slot. It looks like, as for how we voted, it was an 8-6 vote. The noes had it. The two of you voted no. I voted yes. But it looks like after this, that's not going to be something that we'll be allowed to do.
Yeah, would either of you like to weigh in on why you voted the way that you did? I think Cam, you might have had a little more of a motive with Jordan Montgomery being one of those players, but any reasoning behind your all's votes? And I'm kind of curious to hear what people's thoughts were. I missed a good chunk of the discussion on it.
Yeah, well, I was a bit
Yeah,
biased, but I also think, he's not a prospect and he's signed, um, he's in not in the majors. So I feel like kind of just by the letter of the name of the position on the sheet, and he certainly qualifies for that.
yeah, I mean that's totally fair. I think I kind of based my decision on like a couple of past like situations. I think one was when you had a player who was injured and came back and had a rehab training, particularly say if they were a free agent, you couldn't add them to your NPI spot. So I kind of went off of that kind of historical decision that we had. And then also I agree with, I forget, I think it might have been Erik who said it. If they signed major league contracts and they're just going down there to ramp up, then I think they're not technically eligible for that because they're not sent down as a demotion or to just get more playing time, whatever it is. They were just sent down as a rehab. So kind of a combination of both of those made me lean towards, all right, they probably should not qualify for that.
Yeah, I think Ruthvik's largely right here. I think kind of thinking of like the spirit of the rule when we put it together was like, hey, like this guy like has like 200 plate appearances in the majors. He came up his rookie year. He's asked. The team wanted to send him down, but you don't want that to be it for him on your roster. So I think this was very different than what we intended the MPI to be for in the first place. So and obviously we've kind of expanded the uses a little bit to like veterans who sign minor league deals, like fine. But yeah, I think this went a little too far beyond kind of the scope of what the rule was. So that was kind of my logic as well. But I honestly did not have that strong of an opinion on it. I didn't really participate much in the discussion about it. I kind of voted kind of with my gut, but I would have been fine however we came out on this issue. I didn't have that strong of an opinion.
Yeah, fair enough. And I imagine it doesn't really affect too many people all the time anyway. But yeah, now that we're on a slightly different note here, anything else we want to discuss before we call it an episode?
No, I think I'm just excited for a new season. Uh, New baseball season. Gallardo's ending next week. I think we had a really, really good first season for that league as well. So, it's never a bad time to talk fantasy. So it's been good. I think it's been a good year, and I'm looking forward to another competitive baseball season coming up.
Yeah.
Same here. Yeah. Can't believe this is already year 7. Can't believe this is episode 150 of the podcast. Super excited about that. Super excited to see what comes for the podcast this year, and for the league as a whole. And I mean, not only that, I mean, Gallardo season 2 is coming up here. I mean, that it's really weird to me that season 2 is underway for baseball, but we're still wrapping up season 1 for the basketball and hockey playoffs here. So that's really interesting. That's fun. I'm not going to talk about what happened in Gallardo baseball for Ruthvik and I, because we're not going to end on a down note. But yeah, I'm excited for all these leagues that we have here, and here's to another great year. It's hard to believe. I think it was a week or two ago, maybe not even, was when we did the inaugural draft. The anniversary of that. So that was um 2018, right? 20
Yeah, 2018.
20. Yeah, so man, it's been 6 years now. It's hard to believe.
Wow, time really flies.
Shit, it really does. Yeah. But here we are.
All right, here we are. So good luck everyone in year number 7, and we will see you next week after a normal length week, thankfully.
Yeah, we won't be using the word stub week for a while. Hopefully.
Hopefully.
All right.
All right, thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah,
thanks for coming.
absolutely. Thanks for try hosting. And yeah, we'll get you on another episode soon.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure.
This podcast is good.